Welcome to the Bigger Room Podcast. I'm your host, Jill Bender.
And I'm Mel Cobian, and today we're going to talk about negative visualization. What is the worst case scenario in everything that you do? Have you ever gone through that thought pattern, Jill, whenever you make a decision like, what's the worst case scenario if I do X?
I'm sure I used to do it. I haven't done that in so long, so I have a different kind of mindset now, but for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we all have done it.
Yeah. So most people, when they start something new, so in our case is like high ticket investments in some cases, right? For coaching or programs, courses, things like that. Anytime somebody has to part ways with money, usually the association that's made is like, it took me a month to make this much money and now I'm about to go drop it on this. What if it doesn't work? And they start going through the worst case scenario. And there have been some studies that talk about how for some people, just based on the way they're wired, how actually asking yourself, like, visualize the worst case scenario, like visualize yourself parting away from that money, visualize yourself, again, what you feel is the worst case scenario. Maybe you don't get results. And the reason why is because that instead of actually holding on to the fear and basically being stuck in inaction, which we know that no action is not the good thing. So some action, even though it's so imperfect action, is better than no action, really, is what I'm trying to get at. And fear is the reason why people don't take the action. So it could be maybe beneficial to some of you to take that step back and then picture that worst case scenario. Like, what is the worst case scenario if I don't stick to my workout plan? Like, literally, what is the worst case scenario? Right? Your health declines, maybe you gain 5 to 10 pounds, but actually it's more about acknowledging what that may look like that starts detaching the fear, because the thing about fear is just fight or flight. You're just stuck in fight or flight. Whereas with visualization, even though this is kind of the opposite of what we would recommend, but for some people, again, because we all think some of us are driven by desire, some of us are driven by pain. Like, I took a lot of action in my life because of pain, because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. But then I got myself to a point where now I take action from a place of abundance, from a place of like the best case scenario. I don't entertain the worst case because I don't see it that way. But before, it was like, if I get stuck here, I'm going to continue to get in debt. I'm going to be unhappy. I'm going to be unfulfilled. It might have an effect on, my marriage because, happy wife, happy life. So kind of like really taking that step back and thinking of the worst case scenario might be the visualization you might need in order to actually take that action step in your business, in your relationship, with your health journey, whatever it may be.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess in my personal life, I lied earlier. When it comes to my son, I can't. When it comes to my son, I can't tell you how many times there's a worst case scenario popping through my head. Anybody that has kids probably knows it's so hard to not have a worst case scenario like immediately pop in their head.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And go ahead.
As I say, but for business stuff, improving my life, it came to, for me, it was, what's the worst case scenario if I don't, take action and start doing something to change my life? It was me envisioning my son's going to see me constantly struggling with money. That's what he's going to learn to do. That's how he's going to live. And it was more the fear of setting him up for failure that got me to get moving. And now I just look at I already know what's possible and what's already happened. So now that just fuels me to want to keep doing more.
Exactly. And I want you guys to really pay attention to what Jill said, is that she, she visualized that worst case scenario of what her life would look like if she stayed where she was. But then because of that, and usually I found, like, in the beginning, especially for people who, all of us were beginners at one point. Anytime you're going to do anything new, anytime that you are a beginner, your mind does go there because you don't know what's on the other side. But usually the pain, I've found, that is the driving force in the beginning for a lot of people. But then when you start seeing results, then it changes. It's like, oh, dang, like I experienced this. What's the best case scenario? Like now I'm like unstoppable. Your belief just grows. But in order to even get there, you have to really look at, are you comfortable? Because that could be the thing, is like maybe you are comfortable where you're at right now. And that's, again, like you are putting a ceiling over your head because, there's no hierarchy when it comes to humanity. Like we all have the same worth. And so if you are driven to accomplish something, but it's fear that's holding you back, one of the benefits that the study mentioned was that they found that when people do go in their head through like the worst case scenario, like worst case scenario, I lose money. Worst case scenario, I gain weight. Because you are acknowledging the potential pitfalls, you like automatically become aware of, make sure that you're doing the training and listening and asking questions so that you get your return on investment. It's almost like calling out the potential areas where you think you're going to fail and almost giving you like hint, wink, wink. You think you might fail because of this. So make sure you take action to not get that. So it's like, in some ways they measure that by having awareness of that, it reduces anxiety because now it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to die. So it's like, really, as humans, because we're animals, that is the concern with fight or flight, is I'm threatened because I'm going to die, but you're not going to die. Calm down. Yeah.
Last week when you and I talked, Melon, and I was going through like the super kind of didn't know where I was heading sort of direction last week, and one of our friends told me, write down all your fears, and it's kind of like get them all out, put them down. You're kind of defusing them almost by putting them down. So it's a super helpful exercise. And so it's the same thing, like, what am I so afraid of? What is the worst case scenario? Get it out, and you're going to see that worst case scenario is not the end all. Like you said, you're not going to die. It depends on your situation of what you're doing. I mean, jumping off a bridge without a bungee, chances are better.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, so that's actually an exercise I've done before. I've been walked through the exercise of almost like transmuting. Transmuting is just, you have this energy of fear and we're trying to transmute it and let it go and basically let it rise to become something else. So it's like a little, feng shui tip that a feng shui teacher told me, is like, write in purple when you're trying to transmute energy. There's something about the color purple and the frequency that and then putting it to paper and then writing down your fears and what you let go. Maybe you have to forgive yourself for something, that's a big thing too. And so everything that you just visualize that comes to your head that you need to transmute, meaning you want to change it from fear or from sadness or from anger to something else. You can even go as far as burning that piece of paper when you're done, and almost really thinking about like, your again, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, just transferred. So by burning that piece of paper and really putting it out there, like you're, transferring that energy away from you, and it is done, right? It is done. But I think that, like what you said, what did it do for you when you did visualize like those fears and writing them down and putting them out there? Like, what did that do for you?
Just gets it out of your head. It's like, one of the ways I can look at it as, God, I got something here. It's when you're when you're so super scared of what's behind the curtain. Let's say at a haunted house. If you guys have ever gone through a haunted house, you don't know what is coming around that next corner, and you're like anticipating the worst case scenario. And when you think about it, you're like, what is the worst case scenario? For 1/2 a millisecond, I'm going to go, and I'm gonna have like my whole body's gonna tighten up, and I'm gonna like want to like die right there.
Yeah.
But that is gonna last such a short amount of time. And so when
Exactly.
you think about it, and you're kind of like, well, yeah, what possibly could be behind that curtain that is gonna just, you're not gonna die.
Yeah.
You're gonna,
Yeah.
it's still.
But it feels like
enough
it
to-
because of that. Yeah, because of the fight or flight. I mean, again, we are animals, and it's like our instincts are telling us like there's a threat here. There's a threat. It's just how the animal inside of us. So you need to realize that you're also an emotional being, and it's your emotions that kind of like trick your mind thinking that there's a threat here. There's a threat. So imagine living your life never looking behind the curtain, never willing to turn the corner because of the what if or because of that fear.
Mhm.
But if you sit down and you visualize it, even something like if you just visualize like, okay, when I look behind this curtain, this clown's gonna pop up. When I turn this corner, this pop is gonna, this is gonna happen. So when I've done like the scary houses and the mazes, it's funny because it's kind of like that visualization of like, take a deep breath. Okay, there's gonna be things popping up, so just be okay with it, and then here you go, just anticipating it, but also willing to face, head on that this is what's going to happen. Exactly. But the what's on the other side is you miss out on making memories, you miss out on the fun, and some people might not think it's fun, but
I
it's only fun after.
Yeah, after you survived.
Yeah,
I don't do haunted houses anymore. I grew up being forced to go into haunted houses, and I hated them when I was younger. And as I got older, I still hated them. And I think when I was maybe like 32, I was standing in line for this haunted house, and I did not want to go in. I'm standing with we had like 15 people with us, and I'm like, you know what? God damn it. I am 32 years old. I am an adult, and I don't have to go in these anymore, and I'm not going. So I just stopped, and everybody's like, you're going. I'm like, I'm not going. I'm not. You could not make me go through this. I have no desire to do it. But the only thing I said was the only way I'll get through there is if my child makes me go. And I did have to go through that haunted house last year because he wanted to go.
Haunted houses. That's a great example of, fear and kind of pushing yourself through it regardless. And I think that a lot of people can sometimes get motivated by having that feedback of the fears and then kind of seeing them in front. It's almost like that feedback or reflection of what is really getting in the way of you. If the worst case scenario isn't death, what are you really afraid of? Like with anything that you do, any decision. So like the example I gave earlier was like for us, something very common because of what we do and, our coaching and programs and courses and things like that. Usually that comes with a high ticket price tag. And sometimes people, want the output, right? People want the output. They're willing to put the input, but they're just not willing to make that energy transfer of monetary value because there are usually some fears what if I fail? What if this isn't for me?
I think
like the typical
one of the biggest ones I think is that people don't realize that they are quite cozy in their miserable state, and they have this fear that they can't recognize, that this might change everything I know and everything I'm used to, especially with relationships, like friendships, even your own family. They're gonna judge me. Like, what are people gonna think? Am I still gonna be friends with this person? And
Oof. Imagine missing out on building a multi-six-figure business because you're afraid of what people are gonna think. Imagine missing out on traveling. Imagine missing out on paying off debt. Imagine on missing out on whatever goal you are worthy of it. No human is above another. What makes us different is how we go through life, really, right? In our willingness, and are we teachable? And the truth is that it's a very small percentage of people that are willing to break the generational generational trauma is what it is. So only a very few are here to break the generational trauma. And your life is pretty much like it depending on like where you are, how old you are right now, chances are like this is the rest of your life, like where you are right now. Chances are.
Mm-hmm.
So are you happy with that? If not, doing exactly what you're doing is not the way to change it. You have to do something different. And you have to learn from people that have what you want.
Yeah. And right now, like, if we were talking 10 years ago, well, if we were talking now, like 15, 20 years ago, and you were unhappy with the situation, people just accepted it. Like, this is the most I can get. This is the most I can do. This is the highest I can go at my job.
Oh, gosh.
I'm not smart enough to do anything on or do anything more. But now you have literally no excuse. The only excuse is you, because you have the craziest opportunities to actually become a 7-figure earner are here for everybody's taking. And all it takes is you stepping 1 foot forward and doing something, and get out of the comfort zone, put down that fear. It's right there for you.
Absolutely. I know this person who tends to spend time with people when they transition, and she says that unfortunately, like a majority of the time, this is just so sad, is that within the last 5 minutes of them passing, that is when they become fearless. They regret everything they didn't do. They regret the trips they didn't take. They regret all the things they didn't get to attend. They don't regret taking more chances. They don't regret, learning how to play that. They regret not learning how to play that one instrument. All these little things that you might think like, oh, I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. Stop wishing. Have the knowing that it's already done, and just do it. Because if there's anything that motivates you is, do you want to be fearless now and for the rest of your life, or do you want to be fearless the last 5 minutes that you have on Earth?
Yeah. Even playing the cello or whatever you said, we have YouTube. You can literally learn how to play the cello.
That's how I learned when I was a teenager. Yeah, when I was a teenager, I was 13 years old. That's how I learned music. I taught myself. And now I have
YouTube then.
YouTube
from YouTube. Yeah, did they have that when you were 13 years old? Oh my god.
Chill.
Dating myself. Aging myself.
I was gonna say, yeah, they had it when I was a teenager. And now I have every instrument. Yeah, I have every instrument, consistently getting new instruments, because it's like, that's the fun about that's the thing, is you guys, you get to do whatever the heck you want. And if you don't know the answers to it, figure them out. Use free resources. But I also want to touch on something. Free is only going to get you so far for so long, because naturally, when you invest your time, you need to see some sort of return. And that's usually when people they go on social media to try to learn, the free guide on this person, this diet, these free workouts, this free masterclass, etc. You can only do so much with free stuff, because that person that became a master at it has invested a lot of time and money to become that master at it. And in order for you to elevate your skills, you have to be willing to input that commitment so that you get that return of knowledge. So that's just a given. And if you can't accept that, you're not going to be a business owner. But I mostly wanted to say that because I've also seen people, when I have applications for my one-on-one coaching, they want the moon, they want the world, they want to make $100,000, but then the input is like less than $1,000 willing to invest. And so for those of you that are not familiar with business, there is a lot of skills and a lot of knowledge that we've acquired over the years, and we've definitely have spent over $1,000 to sharpen our skills, right, Jill? Yeah.
Way over
So
1,000.
so understand that the when I see that, I don't see like, oh, this person, doesn't have the money. I see it as this person wants the vision, right? They want the abundance, but then the giving, right? Because in order to receive, you need to give. Their giving isn't coming from a place of abundance. It's coming from a place of scarcity, and it's coming from a place of fear. So that's how I see it. So if that's you, you're like, I've wanted to start a business for a long time, or I've wanted to hire a personal trainer. All right, Joe?
Mm-hmm.
Personal trainers cost money. I was in that industry for 10 years. So I also went through that when I would go on coaching calls. I could see the people that were willing to part ways. I could see the fears of, what if it doesn't work for me? What if I fail? Or, what if I don't have the discipline, etc. Yeah, it's okay to have those thoughts. We're saying it's okay to have those thoughts, but be aware of them and transmute them so they do the opposite effect and they motivate you to take action. Yeah, I don't take action of scarcity. I take action from a place of abundance. And I am so grateful for the version of me that was willing to, be that person that took action and took the risk and got over the fear. Because I did it a couple times in the past and I failed. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I did it again and experienced the same thing. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But that third time, it changed my life. Yep. So know that failure is going to happen. But it's not, again, you're not going to die. So now I ask myself, like, am I going to regret it on my deathbed? And then it's like, it just kind of really changed a lot for me, because I'm like, I'm not going to have this conversation 5 minutes before I pass. I'm going to be so happy because I did everything I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So that time is coming, guys. And I know that a lot of people don't like to think about it. Maybe that's a little too morbid, but visualizing the worst case scenario is going to either keep you in that place of inaction. You're going to think you're comfortable where you are. And ultimately, it's up to you. It's up to you if that's the life you want to live, or if you're going to be that person that breaks that generational trauma and leads by example. And is okay with taking fears so that you get to become the fearless version of you, the abundant version of you. And life is a lot more fun on this side.
As I say, and I could tell you, you are going to be in love with your fearless version. You are, I actually just said this in my mastermind group today. I had give me like 3 things that we're grateful about. And I always start to lead by example. I'm like, here's my 3. And my third one was, I am so grateful that I am a person that doesn't give up, that continues to fight and move forward and make all my dreams come true, or something. I don't know how I put it, but that's exactly what I said. I was like, so grateful that I am that person now.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. Yeah. Because it wasn't always rainbows and butterflies, right? We can sit here and look back, because even for me, like just earlier last year, I wasn't this person. And so just sitting back and looking at that version of yourself, it's like, I am so grateful for that person. Be grateful for that person. Be grateful for the person that is that version of you that's forcing you to still be listening to this podcast, because that means that there's a voice inside of you, this fire inside of you that's saying, you need to listen to this. But not just listen, right? Taking the action, doing the work, doing the exercises that we just explained, and seeing that it's almost like that the worm before the butterfly, right? So that's truly what is happening every time. Yeah. I said the worm. Yeah. So it really comes from that place of, we've been there, we can see it. We hope that doing this visualization exercise really just brings to the forefront what you need to tackle, so that your anxiety reduces and you are no longer stuck in the what if.
Not stuck in the fear. Get over the fear, because this side is amazing. And you're going to be very happy over here.
100%. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Please share this with anyone who maybe can do this exercise with you. And we'll see you next week.